Good morning. Another Wednesday, another DJI release, and of course, another Drone DJ panel. Joining us in Toronto is Ife Zhao, a really knowledgeable drone person, and in France, senior writer for Drone DJ, Bruce Crumley. Good morning, guys.
Morning.
So before we get into news about the Mavic 3, and we know that there will be people interested in that, of course, today is another DJI release. They're doing like 3 releases in 3 weeks. Last week, it was the Ronin 4D. And this week, hold up the box, it is the Action 2 camera, which, as you can see there, is a modular design. I've got a review up on the site right now. This is the little camera on its own. So modular, it's got the small camera, which can operate on its own, 120 frames per second at 4K. It has a touchscreen on the back, so you can control the settings with the Mimo app or by just simply swiping on the OLED display, or with this module, which has a front-facing screen. You can frame yourself and also access some of the controls. I've had a chance to play around with it. I think it's pretty impressive, actually. It's a very interesting design. Ife, when you look at a camera like this, which can shoot 4K, and in fact, if you look at this, a lot of FPV pilots used to really like the GoPro Session.
Look very similar, yeah.
Form factor. Like the size is almost identical, except if you look at the depth, the DJI is actually much smaller. Ife, I know you haven't had a chance to put your hands on one of these cameras yet, but when you look at this, it's about 2 ounces, small form factor. Do you suspect people are going to be putting these on their drones?
Definitely they will try, right? It will be interesting to see how the stabilization works once they put it on the drone, because obviously it doesn't have the gimbal built in. Would be interesting to see how that actually works. But I'm also more particularly interested to see if you record 4K 120, and given that the size is so small, I'd be interesting to see how the overheating is handled, because that's a common issue with these smaller action cams, right?
It does get a little warm when you're doing kind of processor intensive stuff. I shot a hyperlapse and a time lapse as well with it. The hyperlapse was incredibly smooth, and I was quite impressed with that. But yes, it does get a little bit toasty. Bruce is actually a surfer and has been for a very long time. Bruce, I know you personally don't mount GoPros or anything on your surfboard. You're not into shooting yourself while you're out surfing, but do you see, something like this, which is waterproof up to 10 meters? It's pretty small. Do you think you might be starting to see some of these show up on surfboards?
Oh yeah, I'm sure we will. I mean, you already do see. You don't see as many GoPros as you used to on the noses of surfboards, but you do see the pads that that the suction cup things that used to keep them anchored there, and there's no doubt you'll see a lot of people using those and getting even better footage. That's something that people really love. I just I hope they do find a different way of enabling bodyboarders to use them, because bodyboarders, what they do, since they don't have a place to anchor them, they have this extremely attractive contraption in which they put it in their mouth, and it's jaw activated, and so you have these things hanging down below their jaw, and then they activate it with their teeth, and I just don't know how badly you want to see yourself to looking like a pud. But anyway, that's just, I'm sure you will see a lot of them, because people do really like that kind of footage, and some of that footage is as you see some when it's facing outwards, guys get deep in the barrel, and it's like being there.
Cool. I mean, I would personally love to talk a lot more about the Action 2 camera, just simply because I wrote a review on it and was up extremely late last night finishing my edit. If my eyes look particularly baggy today, that's why. But rather than go into more details on that, I'm just going to let you know that we do have a very extensive review on our website, and we've got a video to go with it. And at the beginning of the video, because this is magnetic, I, in a fit of inspiration or stupidity, I put it inside my clothes dryer. It stuck to the side, and I turned the dryer on. So I was kind of happy with the results from that. All right. So the other news, 1 week from today, Ife, tell us what's happening 1 week from today.
Oh, the exciting Mavic 3 Pro release. 1 week from today, exactly on the mark, right?
Absolutely. Now, Bruce, you're in the mix every day. Obviously, more and more leaks being released as we get closer.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's up until recently, it was kind of hard to imagine what other information you could get that hadn't already been leaked. I mean, the people who are doing the leaks are doing a very good job from their sources of getting pretty much everything you could imagine. But now that obviously the retailers have gotten a hold, some of them have gotten a hold of it, and then they've deboxed them and taken photos, and you have various things, very big detailed close-ups of the actual craft and everything. I saw one tweet today noting that there seems to be a tube coming out of the side somewhere, and that the theory was that's a moisture vent from the scoop, so anyway, you're getting all kinds of information, and you got to give it to the leak hounds, because they've really come up with the goods this time.
I think one of the biggest questions that we're waiting to hear, and really there's been nothing definitive yet, is what the price of these products are going to be. We're looking at essentially three options, is my understanding. There is sort of the basic Mavic 3, which will have a Hasselblad camera. They all have the same camera, which is both a Hasselblad 20 megapixel camera, 4/3 inch CMOS lens, and with a variable aperture from f2.8 to f11 and an 84-degree field of view. There's also a small zoom camera as well in the same module. But the question is really, what is the price going to be? Initially, we were told $15.99 for the base model, and there's going to be a Fly More combo with the base model, and then there's going to be the Cine version in a combo. Now, the Cine version, the key difference here is that the Cine version contains a 1 terabyte SSD, so you're not going to be fiddling around with micro SD cards all the time. A high-speed data output. I don't know if that's going to be USB-C or some proprietary cable that DJI will come out with. And it will be pricier. It will also record significantly, and this is a big deal for the pros, it will record Apple ProRes 422 HQ. Ife, you come from a cinematography background and you're still involved with cinematography. Tell us what the advantage is to have a machine that can record Apple ProRes 422 HQ, please.
It's actually more of a question to my post than for myself. But overall, I'm really looking forward to trying out the Mavic 3 Pro. It's interesting. I'm not sure if it's just because this is just an upgrade from the Mavic 2 Pro. I'm not that excited about the Mavic 3. Earlier this year, I was really hoping that DJI would come up with maybe a replacement of the Inspire 2 on the cinema side, or something that would compete along the line with FreeFly Alta X. But instead, it's basically another prosumer level of the drone of the Mavic 3 Pro. Just talking to some of the film teams here in Toronto, the general consensus are basically with the 4/3 sensor, they are interested in potentially getting this and essentially trying to replace their Inspire 2, so cut out the middle level drone. So only keep this as more of the entry level for some professional work, and then the Alta X for really the higher end. But a lot of them are talking about, if this drone really delivers all its specs and usability, then they're considering basically decommissioning their Inspire 2, because the quality isn't going to be too much better, and the setup time is just a lot more than this.
Yeah, the Inspire 2, I'm kind of going by memory here, but I believe was released in 2017. So it's now, and
A
I think it,
while ago.
yeah, I think it was even in November. So it's like 4 years
Yeah.
old.
And it never got updated.
No, it really never did. I mean, other than the new set of glass or lenses that were made available for it, there really has been nothing new for that. Do you feel there's a market for the? I mean, obviously there is because lots of people bought the Inspire 2. But when you look at this Mavic 3 and the kind of specs that we're hearing, as you said, some people might just decommission their Inspire 2s, but you feel certainly it sounds like that there would be real demand for a new Inspire 2 or an Inspire 3.
On the filming level, for sure. And even a lot of the pilots I speak to who do commercial work, just marketing or general commercial work, they were always hoping to get a drone that does a bit better than the Mavic 2 Pro, handles a bit better in the low light conditions, right? Have a little more of the lens options. So essentially, they were interested in the Inspire 2, but for their level of work, they weren't interested, or the usage frequency, they weren't. It just the price wasn't justifying it. So with the Mavic 3, there's definitely a potential of this being the upgrade. And not like no longer having the need to go for Inspire 2.
Now, I don't want to get into speculation on the price of the Mavic 3 because really we don't know. There was a leak yesterday or the day before that another drone website had, and the prices that they were predicting based on some numbers from China were really quite high. The Cine combo was in the range of $4,600, $4,700 US, which is a lot of dough to drop unless you are a professional. So I think on the price front, let's just wait and see. We'll hope that the base model is affordable. Not everyone needs to be recording in Apple ProRes 422 HQ. And I think hopefully that the base model will be somewhere in a range that, maybe $2,000 that sort of those prosumers who've got that budget can pick one of those up. But again, it does tell us something about DJI making a statement when you see the release of 3 different products. And I mean, that Ronin 4D has a huge amount of technology built into it, followed by the Action Camera 2 today. And 1 week from today, we'll be talking about the Mavic 3. So hold on tight. We look forward to that. Let's move on to some of the other news that's been going on in the drone world. Bruce, you wrote a story from Sweden that kind of caught my attention. Tell me about what's going on there with drones.
Yeah, basically what happened was Sweden has been doing a lot of research, hospitals that is, with first responders in using drones to get I'm not going to be able to say it. Defibrillators to people who have victims of cardiac arrest. And studies have shown that every minute really counts when you've had a heart attack. Your chances of survival and of surviving well diminish with each minute that goes by. So they've tried to use drones to get them to victims, and it's shown to be very promising in Sweden. This time, what happened is a Swedish drone services company flew a flight from Gothenburg, or actually flew several flights from Gothenburg, but using a drone that was based in Helsinki. So it was going from one spot in Helsinki to another. I think it was about, like a couple of kilometers away, and getting them there on time, dropping it down by winch, and proving very successful. And apparently this is important because Finland has a real problem with being able to get defibrillators to people who've suffered heart attacks. It's a fairly spread out country, and so if you're somewhere outside of the city center, that can be a real problem. And apparently, there's between 5,000 and 10,000 deaths per year, which they think could be avoided if these could get to patients
That's
faster.
a high
So I thought
number.
it was pretty interesting, and plus pretty cool to have. I think it's one of the few BVLOS flights operated from one, within the EU itself, and then this, of course, is cross-border in the fact that somebody's sitting there 800 kilometers away flying a drone from one place to another. So I thought it was pretty interesting.
I know from discussions with Romeo Dersher, sort of a very big public safety drone person, that they're looking as well at the possibility that when a 911 call comes in, they have data, they have geolocation data when those calls arrive, so they know where the call is coming from. And if it were sort of a cardiac arrest, the ability to sort of immediately dispatch a drone carrying an AED toward that location, and it's going to be monitored in some room by a pilot who is looking at a monitor and who can take over the final bits of the flight when they see the people on the ground and they see where a safe landing area is, or however they deliver the AED at this end. Ife, I know you stay on top of this stuff. Do you foresee that this is going to be kind of a big deal in the future, and particularly for rural areas or in cities that are quite congested?
This year, we've seen several smaller townships and cities in the GTA area were exploring options like this. Ultimately, the end result is they wanted defibrillators or AEDs to be delivered within 6 minutes of receiving the call, of identifying the situation. I guess the doctors have determined that's the crucial time frame. And as Bruce mentioned, similarly in Canada, as you go away from the 5 major cities, the land really spreads out, and people live fairly further apart, and timing is the issue. I guess Bruce, so I had a specific question. Once the AED is delivered, who administers? Because obviously the person who have heart attack, I don't imagine they're going to be able to do it. So who administers?
Oh, I think anybody who puts in the call is expected to administer it. And actually, when you see, I mean, I assume the same thing is true everywhere in the world, but here in France, you're seeing a lot more places, whether it's airports or office buildings with AEDs right there. And if somebody goes down, whoever happens to be around is going to have to use it. So that is the idea. And the other interesting thing here is also it's going to be another accelerator for tech development. Is in Canada, as in Finland, one of the reasons why it's a concern to be able to get material to people fast is because the roads can be treacherous. Either they can be clogged if you're in the city, or they can be snowed over. And so it's going to be interesting to see how they get the tech develop fast, so the drones are not having any problem in Helsinki or Toronto winters, which I have the feeling are a little bit more brutal than they are where I am right now.
So I know one of the projects we looked at specifically, it was kind of on the bigger infrastructure level. Basically, to deliver this within 6 minutes, what they were envisioning for this specific county is they were envisioning, first of all, believe it or not, once you go outside of major cities like Toronto, internet and network signal dies down really, really quickly. So to be able to accurately fly a drone without tapping into the local network, the accuracy was getting pretty challenging. So really to have this, within 6 minutes of time and accurately to be flown, the concept they all had was basically build the drone boxes and have them, have the stations, right? So work with either the cell phone towers or the hydro towers to have stations nearby to build almost like a network of saying, based on population, based on the spread, and within 6 minutes radius, draw the zones, and each zone is going to have a drone box there that's going to have AEDs, and may even have a few other things that are needed for emergency purposes. So not building this just for AEDs and not traveling from a centralized location, but have almost these things stationed. So when there is a need, it can basically locate the nearest station where it's available, and then go from that station to the intended location. So to do that means they were looking at this specific county, which had a small lake around it, in the central part of it as well. So what they were considering was basically using this as one of the primary reasons to have the cell phone towers to start putting in where they actually don't have or have really poor cell phone signal, even to cover this. And along that, there were several senior homes, or home health care is also a big part here in Canada, I guess, because of the senior age. So there are projects where they're trying to equip the seniors who are home alone, because that was my question: is who delivers or who administers the AED? And to start with, like Bruce said, it has to be whoever is there. But what if a senior who's living at home alone had a slip and fall and had a situation, and they can't actually make the call, they can't administer, they're alone by themselves, or two seniors there, the other person is not physically capable of doing it. They can make the call, but they can't physically perform the service. So there are also talks of basically having specialized wristbands. I believe they're available even in different senior homes, right? So if the heart rate drops, if their vital signs conditions have a substantial change, it automatically triggers a 911 call. And based on the vital signs change, it would alert the 911, what the situation is, and then make the decision from there. So there were even talks of, getting spots, those Boston Robotic, robot dogs, equip them or have them available at the station, because drone may not be necessarily the solution. Even if it delivers AED, if no one's capable of administering it, then it's not going to be effective. So ultimately the bigger concept was to have this almost like a remote medical station, right, that has drone, has AEDs, has maybe some kind of robot, and available at the designated radius along with a communications tower, so that they can ensure communication, and the accuracy of the communication. And then if a situation calls, and then also making sure the seniors they know at home are equipped with the necessary equipment to monitor their vital signs and health conditions. So it was definitely a bigger concept that everything has to work together to make this work.
That's quite interesting. I was actually involved. I was sort of shooting and writing about it, but I was involved in trials 2.5 years ago outside Ottawa, where they were delivering automated external defibrillators by drone and comparing the time of delivery with the time it took for paramedics to get there via ground vehicles. Bruce, to address your question, like how do people know, how to do it at that end? In this case, the basic clear instructions were printed very visibly right on the case, and as well inside the case, if I recall, and stick them on and stand back. But Ife, to your point, that's a very good one, is that some of the people who might be making these calls or requiring these services may be elderly, might have some sort of condition that they are just not able to go out in the driveway, remove that package, and quickly go and apply an automated external defibrillator. One of the other things in this age where fentanyl has found its way into the drug supply is the delivery of Narcan, which is kind of I think you just sort of squirt it up your nose, but it can save people who are in the midst of a fentanyl overdose. So I think we'll be keeping an eye on this area as we move forward. And I mean, I personally, I really do like seeing these drones for good stories, and we're going to see more at time. In fact, just recently we had an organ delivery in Toronto by drone, a set of lungs which were transplanted. This wasn't a drill. It was an actual delivery, and they'd been planning for a very long time to carry this out. And in this case, the patient, believe it or not, was someone who does fly drones, and the doctor, revealed that when finally made it public. So this happened in late September. Ultimately, though, I think it's going to be the delivery of things like Narcan, the delivery of urgently needed prescription drugs to remote locations that will benefit the greatest number of people. We're not going to be seeing organ deliveries every day by drone, at least partly due to the fact too that so few people sign their donor cards, unfortunately. So anyway, we'll leave that with that topic aside, but very, very interesting stuff, and we look forward to where that heads in the future. Time for one more story that Bruce was involved with this week. It's been the year of volcanoes. First of all, we had that crazy one in Helsinki, and there's no way that I can pronounce the name of that volcano. I just kept calling it the Helsinki volcano when I was writing about it, but of course there are multiple volcanoes in that country. Bruce, we've got another volcano erupting, more drone videos, and even something to do with dogs. Tell us what's happening there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure all of our viewers are familiar with the story, but the volcano on La Palma, in the Spanish island in the Mediterranean, has been going on for it's almost a month now, and what is happening is that among the various structures and areas that have been affected are ones where a bunch of dogs were found to have been encircled by lava flows, and they couldn't get out. And as the weeks went on, they started getting emaciated, and drone flights over the area were identifying them, and people were obviously getting really upset and saying, well, we can't just leave these creatures there to die. And so when last we checked in, which was Friday, there was a mainland company from Galicia that had proposed to use a relatively heavy lifting drone to shoot a tailor-made net around a dog-like creature and be able to harness them and fly them out. It's only about 450 meters apparently between the area where they are and the encircling lava flows. So it was really just an idea, is if we can get in there, get the dogs and lift them up, we're going to have to do it one by one, but so long as it doesn't take 20 minutes, we can probably manage it. And they last Friday they announced they'd done a test run, and it seemed to work really well. Well, in the meantime, just about the time they're announcing this group comes out and uploads a video on YouTube saying, well, they don't actually say anything, but what they do is they cue the Spanish introduction of the 1980s show, The A-Team, and then show this banner that's presumably in the area. I've seen some reports say it was actually where the dogs were, but it is this bed sheet banner with a spray paint that says, be strong, La Palma, the dogs are safe. And the drone company from Galicia, which had been preparing to do the rescue flight, actually had some drone footage of footprints in that area, which probably shouldn't have been there, and also had started saying, yeah, the dogs have gone missing. They must be hiding in cooler places because the temperatures have gone up due to renewed volcanic activity. So the idea was they're just hiding. We're going to keep dropping food, and we're going to use thermal sensors to find out where they are. And once they're used to us, we know where they are, we'll drop food right where they are. They'll come out and get it. We'll let them come out. Well, now apparently it seems as though the dogs may not be there anymore. How did this secretive group, which has not communicated since, get them out? How did they get over the lava flows? Some people say they had a thermal sensor of their own, which detected where these flows might have crusted over, presumably during the night, and they could, literally hot-foot it in and out and just carry the dogs out. And until we have further visual evidence of the dogs in that zone, I think we have to kind of assume that they must not be punking us, as I kind of assumed they were in the beginning. But anyway, it's an incredible story, and I'm sure it's not over yet.
I can see the dropping food, but man, trying to go in with a net and sort of capture and airlift a dog, I think would be a pretty challenging drone operation. One quick correction. I don't know where Helsinki came from in my mind. I was referring to the volcano in Iceland, thinking of Reykjavik. And of course, yes, the Iceland has tons of volcanoes. But the particular volcano where lots of people have been doing FPV flights, etc., has the most unpronounceable name ever. So not going to attempt that. But I think that's a wrap for our panel today. We're certainly looking forward to the release of the Mavic 3. And yes, again, if you joined us later on, or if you're watching this on replay, a reminder that we've got a review and video up for the DJI Action 2 camera. Any final thoughts, Aoife? Anything else that we haven't touched on that you'd like to?
I guess we'll just sit tight and wait till next Wednesday. Try the Mavic 3 Pro, right?
Awesome. Thank you, Aoife in Toronto, and thank you very much, Bruce in France. That is a wrap for another week. And thank you for the comment. We appreciate that. Take care. We'll see you guys soon.